My fiance has an anger issue. How do I deal with this? I'm stuck in a bit of a situation and I am not sure how to handle it. I, 28F, am engaged to Mike, 30 meters. We have been together for 6 years. Engaged for 2 years. Mike has a really big anger problem. Not in an abusive way whatsoever. But any time there is the slightest inconvenience to him, his first reaction is always anger and everything is always my fault. A few examples. 1. I was rushed to the emergency room in March for an anxiety attack. He didn't come visit as my sister took me. And when I got home later that evening he was angry because I don't look after myself enough that it landed me in the hospital too. I went out with friends a few weeks ago, which I don't do often, and had a few drinks and he was angry I stayed at a friend's house because I didn't want to drive home after drinking. He knew this was the plan beforehand but says I should have reminded him. Point 3. Road rage, every single time we drive anywhere. Point 4. The people in the supermarket are walking too slow makes him angry and he's in a bad mood for the rest of the day. Point 5. He will suggest we get takeout or go out and get angry when he has to pay. We have an agreement that if you suggest it, you pay. I usually pay for 99% of going out, expenses, shopping, and yet he gets angry when I say no because it's a tight month or I've had bigger unexpected expenses and then, I'm not good with money. 6. When I ask him to help load the dishwasher it's like I've asked him to walk through the fires of hell. It's as though he feels that everything everybody does is just to inconvenience him and he has this mindset that life needs to be easy for him at the cost of everyone else. My way of dealing with it, due to a dislike of confrontation, is to just ignore the anger until he has calmed down or do everything I can to make sure there is no inconvenience to him even at the cost of my own comfort. I'm at the point now where I have had enough of this and I want to be able to not feel as though I'm walking on eggshells to avoid anger. I love him so much, but is it enough? Whenever I have tried to bring it up in the past it always turns into him being the victim and the world is against him. How do I deal with this? This isn't going to get better, especially if you get married to him. All of this sounds horrible. Your first point shows such completely lack of respect or empathy it makes me want to smack him upside the head. When I got home later that evening he was angry because I don't look after myself enough that it landed me in the hospital. Why do you actually want to be with him? Do you think this is going to change because you get married? It will not if he's going to argue over a dishwasher load. If he refuses to pay for anything. If he belittles you and makes you his mother by making you do everything beck and call. To remind him of easy things he should remember. I was in a similar situation for a long time where it ended up him blacking out in drunken rage and hurting me physically. I too chose to stay for a long time because that's how the cycle of manipulation and abuse works. Leave this guy. You need to breathe. You said it yourself, it's always eggshells. What happens when one of the shells finally cracks? Not in an abusive way whatsoever, and, it's always my fault, are mutually exclusive in this circumstance. You are in an abusive relationship and I hope you leave. If you've been together 6 years and have brought it up multiple times, then his behavior won't change and you should expect the same behavior in the future. I know you say he's not abusive, but if his anger is always directed at you, because it's always your fault face with rolling eyes, that is abuse. I personally wouldn't bet on the fact that it would never turn into physical abuse. Not in an abusive way whatsoever. This is abuse. He might not physically abuse you, but the fact you have to walk around eggshells daily is not a good sign. A healthy relationship should be your safe space. Your fiance lacks any sort of accountability, and I promise you it won't get better. Especially if it hasn't in 6+ years. If you don't leave him, at the very least your fiance needs therapy. He will never change. Never. The second worst thing you can do is marry him. The worst thing you can do is to have kids with him and subject them to his abuse. This is abuse. Even if it isn't physical. Your entire life revolves around not making him angry. How do you deal with it? Simple. You leave. Anger issues like this won't get better. So if you stay with him, know this is the life you'll be living. Picture this. If you marry him. 1. Pain in childbirth. It's your fault for getting pregnant. 2. Postpartum. He cheated because you had to wait 6 weeks for recovery. 3. Baby crying. Your fault for not feeding enough. You get the idea. You're not stuck. The choice is yours. At this age in his life, he's comfortable with who he is and doesn't see any problem as you've co-signed his behavior by staying and not complaining. You can't change him to get help, compromise, or alter his behavior. If you stay, he will grind you down to nothing and you won't be able to protect yourself and any future children. When someone walks on eggshells, it is time to end the relationship. Exclamation mark. Up. Please take this quiz. https www.loveisrespect.org/quiz/is-your-relationship-healthy/ %3e. The site also have a lot of other resources. Love is respect, and you are not getting any respect. You are walking on eggshells. You are manipulated by his anger into giving in to everything he wants. To the cost of your own comfort. You are paying for everything you buy as a couple. You are doing all the chores. Clearly, if he gets so upset about loading a dishwasher, I can't imagine him sweeping or folding laundry if an easier chore like loading a dishwasher is the fires of hell for him. He is blaming you for your health issues that he is probably provoking, since you say that you had an anxiety attack, which would be a normal reaction to having to live scared of his anger all the time. And in general, you don't feel safe emotionally with him, and you don't feel like you can share how you feel about all of this. Really picture yourself. Is this how you want to continue living for the next all of 365 days of next year? For the next 5 years? For the next 20 years? What would you tell to a friend or family member that wrote to you the exact same post that you shared here on Reddit? There is a myth that people become abusive because they are angry. The truth is that they become angry because they are abusive. Abusers start with a mindset where they believe they are entitled to certain things. And then they become angry when something gets in the way. For example, entitled to never having to cope with a partner who is unavailable due to a medical issue. Never having to suffer confusion or annoyance or embarrassment from not remembering his partner's plans. Never being inconvenienced or annoyed by strangers, such as on the road or in the grocery. Never having to pay when he doesn't want to. Never needing to do a chore that he doesn't want to. These are all things that emotionally healthy adults can handle and take in stride. To an abuser, they are huge offenses that someone needs to pay for. He's not going to get better. He doesn't want to. You cannot spend your life trying to ensure the whole world works out exactly as he wants it to, so that he doesn't get mad. Please accept that this relationship is not a healthy or safe place for you to be. And move on. With a guy like this, no wonder you have anxiety issues. This is emotional abuse. Stop being a doormat and emotional punching bag. Break the engagement now. Move out. This is exactly how brother-in-law is. The first time I met him, he snapped at a server because the wait was long. Now 10 years and 2 kids later, he's still the same. Doesn't hit the kids ever, but they see the fits of rage. My niece has become more and more like him and snaps and yells for everything. While my nephew, who's older than her, seems to have an approach to yours. He's very quiet and almost completely still when their dad is around. When his dad isn't around, he's such a happy and energetic kid. It's honestly sad to see my sister walking on eggshells. It looks draining. He doesn't think he has a problem, and my sister gave up trying to get him help many years ago. Unless he takes accountability and seeks help, he will never change. It seems like a sad way to live. Do what's best for you. It seems like you've put his comfort above yours for too long. If you are altering your normal behavior because you don't want to set him off, this is not a tenable situation long term. It will change you into a different person. It is controlling behavior and is abusive. Honestly, he will likely continue to escalate this behavior. And you maybe even be in danger if you tell him you want to leave. Please consider talking to people in your life you can trust and be completely honest about what is happening. You cannot change him. If this is how he's going to be for the rest of your life, angry that you got hospitalized, is that something you can live with? He doesn't contribute at all, yells at you for asking for help, and gets angry when you do things for yourself, even if they are going to the hospital or sleeping at a friend's place. It's controlling, manipulative, and abusive. If you have to specify that he's not abusive, that's already a red flag. Mike has a really big anger problem. Not in an abusive way whatsoever. But anytime there is the slightest inconvenience to him, his first reaction is always anger, and everything is always my fault. Note that this is abuse. Abuse is typically the use of fear, intimidation, manipulation, and the like to control and alter the behavior of the victim. While hitting is an obvious form of it, you will avoid doing things that get you hit. Do note that if anger alone is enough to make you alter your behavior, then they don't even need to hit you. And reality is that most physically abusive relationships are already heavily emotionally abusive. And the emotional abuse usually came first and set the stage for the physical abuse. But even if you don't want to use the word abuse, for whatever reason, be aware he is just deeply toxic to your life. You can't enjoy anything. You can't go anywhere. You can't do anything without him being set off. It is exhausting. And worse, you can't even discuss it because in his mind not only is it not a problem, but actually he feels vindicated. If anything, he likely thinks he should be more toxic, and I am sure that you've noticed over time he has gotten less and less worried about hiding it. Love is never enough. If anything, people like him exploit fanciful notions like that. Your tendency to avoid conflict is part of that as well. Because you avoid conflict, you tend to default to just doing what he wants. Because there is a final piece there as well. That you avoid conflict but also avoid just walking away. What you're describing is abuse. It will only get worse after you marry him, I promise that. Emotional abuse slowly becomes verbal and physical abuse. You're one anger tantrum away from being a corpse. Leave. No relationship is worth this kind of stress. How in the world could you love someone like this?
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epicaricast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.